What if I told you that there's an ancient wisdom tradition that holds the key to breaking free from anxiety's grip once and for all? In the next few minutes, you'll discover how a profound yet simple teaching from the Buddha has helped countless individuals transform their relationship with anxiety and find lasting inner peace. Stay with me, because by the end of this guide, you'll have practical tools that can revolutionize your mental well-being. Understanding anxiety through Buddhist eyes. Anxiety has become one of the most prevalent emotional challenges of our modern era. It follows us through our daily routines, infiltrates our work life, affects our relationships, and even disrupts our moments of rest. But here's what most people don't realize. It doesn't have to be this way. For over 2,500 years, Buddhist teachings have offered profound insights into the nature of suffering, including anxiety. The Buddha taught that mental anguish isn't something we're condemned to endure. It's something we can learn to understand, work with, and ultimately transcend. This isn't about suppressing your worries or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it's about developing a fundamentally different relationship with anxious thoughts and feelings. Through the integration of mindfulness practices, meditation techniques, and deep philosophical understanding, you can transform anxiety from a destructive force into a doorway to greater wisdom and peace. The journey we're about to embark on together isn't about eliminating all concerns from your life. That would be neither realistic nor healthy. Rather, it's about learning to coexist with life's uncertainties in a way that doesn't rob you of your peace of mind. The Buddhist understanding of anxiety's origins. According to Buddhist psychology, the root of anxiety and all forms of mental suffering stems from attachment. This attachment manifests in many forms: clinging to material possessions, dependency on relationships, rigid adherence to beliefs, and most critically, our desperate need to control future outcomes. When we become overly attached to things, people, or circumstances, we create an internal state of constant vigilance. We worry about losing what we have or failing to obtain what we believe we need. This cycle of craving and aversion keeps us locked in patterns of anxiety and unrest. The Buddha identified this pattern in what he called the Four Noble Truths, where he explained that suffering has identifiable causes, but also has an end when we understand its true nature. Anxiety isn't an external force acting upon us. It's an internal response shaped by our mental conditioning. At its core, anxiety emerges from our resistance to life's fundamental uncertainty. We want guarantees that don't exist. We seek permanence in a world of constant change. We try to control what lies beyond our influence. This struggle against reality itself becomes the breeding ground for anxious thoughts and feelings. One of Buddhism's most liberating insights is the principle of impermanence. Everything in existence, our possessions, relationships, emotions, and even our problems, is in a constant state of flux. Nothing remains static forever, yet our minds often operate as if we should be able to freeze time, maintain perfect conditions, and avoid all discomfort. This attachment to permanence is what binds us to anxiety. When we learn to see life through the lens of impermanence, we begin to release these attachments. We stop fighting against the natural flow of existence and start moving with it. The practice of non-attachment doesn't mean becoming indifferent or disconnected from life. Instead, it means engaging fully while holding our experiences lightly. We can care deeply without being consumed by worry. We can love without being paralyzed by the fear of loss. Core Buddhist teachings for anxiety relief. Buddhism offers several interconnected teachings that directly address the mechanisms that create and maintain anxiety. Understanding these principles provides the foundation for lasting transformation. The nature of mind and suffering. The Buddha taught that our minds are the primary architects of our happiness or misery. Anxiety isn't caused by external circumstances alone, but by how our minds interpret and respond to these circumstances. This insight is both humbling and empowering. If our minds create our suffering, they also hold the power to create our freedom. If this message resonates with you, and you're seeking more moments of peace and insight, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for daily reflections rooted in ancient wisdom and modern clarity. The practice of non-attachment. Non-attachment involves loosening our desperate grip on outcomes, expectations, and desires. When we practice non-attachment, we engage with life fully while maintaining inner equilibrium. We participate without being consumed by the need to control every variable. Think of anxiety as arising from our attempts to micromanage the universe. We exhaust ourselves trying to orchestrate outcomes that depend on countless factors beyond our influence. Non-attachment invites us to do our best while releasing our white-knuckled grip on results. Understanding impermanence. Everything in existence follows cycles of arising and passing away. Your current anxious state is not permanent. The situation you're worried about will change. Even your thoughts and emotions are constantly shifting. When you truly grasp this truth, anxiety loses much of its power to overwhelm you. Mindful observation without judgment. Rather than immediately trying to fix or eliminate anxious thoughts, Buddhist practice encourages us to observe them, curious, non-judgmental awareness. Imagine your thoughts as clouds drifting across the sky of your consciousness. Some clouds are dark and stormy, others light and wispy, but all of them pass through without permanently altering the sky itself. When anxiety arises, instead of thinking, "I am anxious," you can observe, "Anxiety is present." This subtle shift in language creates psychological distance between your essential self and the temporary emotional state you're experiencing. Present moment awareness. Anxiety typically feeds on projections about the future or regrets about the past. Rarely does anxiety exist in the pure present moment. When you anchor your attention in the here and now, you starve anxiety of the mental fuel it needs to flourish. Your breath serves as a perfect anchor for present moment awareness. Each conscious inhalation and exhalation brings you back to the only moment that actually exists, this one. The breath is always available as a refuge when your mind becomes agitated. Cultivating self-compassion. Many people intensify their anxiety through harsh self-judgment. They criticize themselves for feeling anxious, which creates a secondary layer of suffering on top of the original discomfort. Buddhist practice emphasizes treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend who was struggling. Self-compassion doesn't mean indulging in self-pity or making excuses. It means acknowledging your human experience with gentleness while still taking constructive action to improve your situation. Practical meditation techniques for anxiety. Now let's explore specific meditation practices designed to calm an anxious mind. These techniques don't require years of training. They can be effective from your very first session. Basic breathing meditation. Find a comfortable position where you can sit with your spine naturally upright. Close your eyes or soften your gaze downward. Begin by taking 3 deep, deliberate breaths, allowing your body to settle with each exhalation. Now, let your breathing return to its natural rhythm without trying to control it. Simply observe the sensation of air flowing in and out of your nostrils. Notice the slight pause between inhaling and exhaling. When your mind wanders to anxious thoughts, and it will, gently redirect your attention back to the breath without self-criticism. The RAIN technique. RAIN is an acronym for a 4-step process of working with difficult emotions. Recognize. Notice that anxiety is present without immediately trying to change it. Allow. Let the feeling exist without resistance or judgment. Investigate. Explore how anxiety manifests in your body and mind with kind curiosity. Non-identification. Remember that you are not your anxiety. Body scan for anxiety release. Lie down comfortably and close your eyes. Starting with the top of your head, slowly move your attention through each part of your body. Notice areas where you're holding tension or where anxiety manifests physically. Rather than trying to force relaxation, simply bring kind awareness to these sensations and imagine breathing into them. Loving kindness meditation. Begin by generating feelings of warmth and care toward yourself. Silently repeat phrases like, "May I be peaceful," "May I be free from anxiety," "May I be happy." Then extend these wishes to loved ones, neutral people, difficult people, and finally, all beings everywhere. This practice cultivates the compassion that naturally dissolves anxiety's grip, integrating Buddhist principles into daily life. The real test of these teachings comes not during formal meditation sessions, but in the midst of everyday challenges. Here's how to apply Buddhist wisdom to real-world anxiety triggers. Mindful response versus reactive response. When anxiety arises in daily situations, you have a choice: react automatically or respond mindfully. Reactive responses often escalate anxiety, while mindful responses create space for wisdom to emerge. For example, if you're facing a work deadline and feel anxiety building, a reactive response might involve panicking, catastrophizing, or becoming paralyzed. A mindful response would involve pausing, taking a few conscious breaths, acknowledging the anxiety without judgment, and then taking appropriate action from a centered place. The practice of impermanence in action. When facing anxiety-provoking situations, regularly remind yourself, this too shall pass. Whether you're dealing with a difficult conversation, a challenging project, or an uncertain outcome, remember that all conditions are temporary. This perspective doesn't minimize legitimate concerns, but it prevents anxiety from spiraling into overwhelming panic. Compassionate self-talk. Notice the internal dialogue that accompanies your anxiety. Often we speak to ourselves more harshly than we would speak to anyone else. Practice replacing self-critical thoughts with compassionate ones. Instead of, I should be able to handle this, try, it's understandable that I feel anxious about this situation. Creating mindful pauses. Throughout your day, create brief moments of conscious awareness. Before checking your phone, take 3 mindful breaths. Before entering a stressful meeting, spend 30 seconds grounding yourself in the present moment. These micro-practices accumulate to create greater overall emotional stability. Advanced practices for deeper transformation. As your understanding deepens, you can explore more sophisticated approaches to working with anxiety through Buddhist principles. Contemplating the nature of thoughts. Spend time observing the arising and passing of thoughts in your mind. Notice how thoughts appear, seemingly from nowhere, exist for a period of time, and then dissolve back into mental space. Recognizing the ephemeral nature of thoughts reduces their power to create sustained anxiety. Working with fear directly. Rather than avoiding what triggers your anxiety, Buddhist practice sometimes involves mindfully approaching these triggers with compassion and wisdom. This doesn't mean recklessly exposing yourself to harmful situations, but rather examining your fears with courageous honesty to determine which ones are realistic and which ones are products of mental conditioning. Developing equanimity. Equanimity is the ability to remain balanced, regardless of whether conditions are pleasant or unpleasant. It's not indifference, but rather a state of engaged non-reactivity. As you develop equanimity, external circumstances have less power to disturb your inner peace. Building a sustainable practice. Transformation happens through consistent practice rather than sporadic intense efforts. Here's how to create a sustainable approach to applying these teachings. Start small and build gradually. Begin with just 5 minutes of daily meditation rather than attempting hour-long sessions. Consistency matters more than duration. As the practice becomes natural, you can gradually extend your sitting time. Create supportive conditions. Designate a quiet space in your home for meditation and reflection. This doesn't need to be elaborate. Even a corner with a cushion can become a sacred space for inner work. Having a dedicated area reinforces your commitment to practice. Find community support. Consider joining a meditation group, attending Buddhist teachings, or connecting with others who share similar interests. Having community support can provide encouragement during challenging periods and deepen your understanding through shared wisdom. Be patient with the process. Transformation of deeply ingrained mental patterns takes time. Some days your practice will feel effortless and transformative. Other days it may feel difficult or pointless. Both experiences are normal parts of the journey. Trust the process and maintain consistency even when progress seems slow. Conclusion: the path to lasting peace. The Buddhist approach to anxiety offers something our modern world desperately needs: a time-tested method for finding peace amidst chaos, clarity amidst confusion, and freedom amidst mental imprisonment. Remember that anxiety itself isn't your enemy. It's a natural human response that, when understood through the lens of Buddhist wisdom, can become a teacher. Each moment of anxiety is an opportunity to practice non-attachment, cultivate present moment awareness, and develop compassion for yourself and others. The path forward isn't about achieving a state where you never feel anxious again. It's about developing a fundamentally different relationship with anxiety, one where it no longer controls your choices, limits your potential, or robs you of peace. The tools you've learned, mindful breathing, non-attachment, present moment awareness, self-compassion, and the understanding of impermanence, are now part of your inner toolkit. They're available to you in any moment, in any situation, whenever you need to return to your center. As you continue this journey, remember that millions of people throughout history have walked this same path. You're not alone in your struggles, and you're not alone in your potential for transformation. The wisdom of the Buddha continues to offer hope and practical guidance for anyone willing to engage with these teachings sincerely. Your anxiety doesn't define you. Your peace is not dependent on external circumstances. Your freedom is possible, and it begins with your next conscious breath. Take that breath now. Feel yourself returning to the present moment. Notice that in this moment, right now, everything is actually okay. This is where your practice begins, and this is where your liberation unfolds, one moment, one